I'm Monica Hollins.
I'm Lauren Brown.
I have about 25 years building community with both private and government entities.
And for more than 15 years, I've been creating events and experiences from corporate gatherings with 5,000 to 6,000 people to neighborhood events through HOAs and lifestyle.
About 15 years in HOA management, starting as a lifestyle director and moving to a community manager. But the entire time really focusing on building that community all the way through.
I'm currently the program director for a leading developer in Idaho.
I started my own company, Outside the Box Consulting. That's where I really work with developers on one end to make sure that we're building amenities that are intentional and that are going to be activated. And then on the flip side, I work with HOA management companies and I train lifestyle directors. And I have to say that's one of my favorite things I get to do.
I really just truly believe that lifestyle is the heartbeat of a community, and I'm really excited that I get to do that day in and day out, and I'm excited to chat about it with you and all of our lifestyle friends.
Welcome to Lifestyle Unplugged with Monica
and Lauren.
We are so excited to bring one of my favorite people to our podcast and to all of you today. Bill Overton, welcome.
Yes,
hi, everybody.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
We are just excited that you are here and that you have enough time for us. So thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Before we jump in, can you give our listeners your background and what led you to be here with us today?
I have a real estate finance degree from the University of Texas at Austin, and I managed apartments through college, renovated a couple and flipped them, and tried to be a self-made land developer and broker and all that stuff. Succeeded, failed, worked for developers, developing land and associations. They succeeded and failed with the ups and downs of the 90s and the 80s. And, I found myself chronically unemployed with two little kids. And in about 1989, joined this industry full-time doing only HOA management for Mike Cadden in Tucson, Arizona. And I thought I'd been sentenced to life without parole in a very dismal situation, but it was the only job literally I could find. There wasn't LinkedIn and Indeed and all that stuff. Back then, you mailed out 100 resumes and had to call guys, and they'd have to sift through paper to find your resume. I was a pretty young guy, short of 40, and I was getting beaten out for these jobs, getting into the final cut by guys that were 15, 20 years my senior in experience. And so I landed this job and took over a master plan community that had gone bankrupt and had gone back, not to the lender, but to the original landholder. And they hadn't had a manager for 4 months. Mike had just gotten his PCAM. They didn't know what to do about this master plan community. They handed me a stack of those old messages that you would tear off at the reception desk and said, good luck.
Oof.
And so basically I just started returning calls, and I found out that my predecessor was like everybody's granddaughter, this beloved woman, right? And now we're an off-site management company. I mean, it was not a warm welcome. It was 7 or so sub-associations and a master association. And I just dove into the deep end of the pool. But what I found was I'm very ADHD, and I struggled as a real estate broker because there was a lot of time between things. And what I loved about this industry off the bat, even though I was kind of miserable, was that there was something to do every 5 minutes that I had to think about and figure out, and kept me interested. And right away, there was a really big painting project. And I knew how to write a painting bid from my own construction experience. I mean, I framed apartments in high school and college. And so I did all that, hired a contractor. The painting project went great. And I went, wow, that was kind of fun. And then I started connecting with my boards and getting to know them and trying to figure out how to help them. And I had one board president that hated me. So I would literally be knocking over glasses of water on the table at the board meetings from nervousness, like a little kid.
Oh, no.
And all of this combined to me really being able to find something that I could do. Over time, that grew with Mike. I got my PCAM, 5 years in, and then I immediately left Mike and went to work on a huge master plan community in Hawaii that was really broken and messed up. And I enjoyed bringing people together and, trying to fix it. I coached rugby. I didn't just play rugby. And I loved coaching. I mean, you're leading people that outrank you in this business, which is an incredible challenge.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, here in my current assignment, the entry level home price right now is $3.5 million. A lot of Fortune 100 types that have never been on a committee in their lives. So I sit 5 of them down and try and get them to work together on a project. I don't even know how to teach that. It's something, and I love it. And right now, everything's going really smoothly and people are singing Kumbaya. And I just love being a part of that. Along the way, I've done a ton of things in CA. As we were talking earlier, initially you get involved in CAI to kind of build your resume. I want to do what they're doing. This will be good for my resume. Building community was a big movement I was glad to be a part of in the late 90s, early 2000s. We just did our 3rd book on that topic here recently, which is wonderful. Monica, I think you contributed a very nice piece to that.
Thank you.
By the way, if you ever ask Monica to write something for you, be prepared for a graduate level paper. I mean, it is very impressive.
Thank you. Very
Not surprising.
And, lately I've been involved in mental health and mental wellness in our industry. I talk a lot about it from the manager's chair, but it applies to everybody in our industry because I think generally we're understaffed. I think generally we're underpaid. I think generally we attract people that are good at juggling.
Mm-hmm.
So they're juggling some things in their everyday life, but they're also juggling things at work. There's never an end to what we do. You show up the next day and they're like, what have you done for me lately?
Yes.
And that process, if you're a type A person like me, or a planner or a control person, you are primed for exhaustion and burnout. And when you get there, our companies don't know what to do with that individual. They just kind of wait for you to throw a belt and quit, or worse, and replace you.
Mm-hmm.
So part of what I'm trying to educate people on, and I hope some CEOs watch this too, there's a huge human price for this in misery, in underperformance. And we'll talk about some statistics in a minute, but there's also an incredible cost for companies for this. When you have to replace an employee, it's expensive. If you end up losing a customer because you had to replace that employee, it costs you money. Underproductivity costs you money. So, mental health and mental wellness is a really important thing from a human standpoint. I think it's also really an important place from a profitability and business standpoint. And, we've made a good beginning on it in CAI. Again, Monica was involved in another book project I led. Very courageous article by Monica. Nice book.
Very good book.
A very courageous article by Monica. A lot of people have stepped up and told their stories. And the goal of all of this is, my name's Bill. I have a mental illness, and there should be no stigma attached to that.
100%. I agree with that. I know Lauren has some questions just waiting to ask.
Let's go.
Yes, I know. Really, I'd like to just jump in on how your experience has influenced the way you support your teams and others.
Great question.
A lot of people tell me that when they first meet me, they're intimidated by me. I'm big, I'm loud, I'm very assertive. I've been told that I'm arrogant, I don't know. I think there's a fine line between arrogance and confidence, but I have to
agree.
accept responsibility for that's how I'm coming off.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sad to say that in my past, I have burned out employees because they couldn't keep up with what I wanted to do or with the changes that the board wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And in retrospect, I'm very sad about that. My employees now, we have a very mellow culture here in this on-site office. My assistant has some of the same mental health issues I do. She at times asks if she can work from home. I work from home some. We're very supportive of each other. You know, I think we need to be responsible as bosses for creating this culture. I will say, you know, it's our off season right now, and a couple months ago, and she wouldn't mind me sharing this, but she had a panic attack at work. I mean, a full blown panic attack. And I said, "Well, what can I do to help you?" And she said, "I don't know." I said, "Are you okay to drive yourself to the hospital?" And she said, "Really? No, I'm not." We closed the office. I drove her to the hospital at 3 in the afternoon, and I held her hand while we waited until her husband showed up at 5:30. And
Wow.
you know, I wish that somebody, when I told them I was struggling in the past, would have done that for me,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to saying, "Suck it up." You're just gonna have to suck it up, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
Bill, you hit on what I think is so important is for the longest time, especially for those of us who've been in the industry for a long time, mental health was not a word you muttered. If you said you were burnt out, it was like, well, that's too bad. Let's bring someone else in that can handle the job. So you made mental health, in my eyes, not taboo anymore in our industry. And for that, I thank you, because there were so many managers and lifestyle directors that I would have personal conversations prior to you, coming out with this and saying, "Hey, I've been there, you know, and let's have a conversation how we can change our industry." Because
Mm-hmm.
you would see so many people just saying, "I'm burnt out." And sometimes they may not be burnt out. It may be that they have depression,
Mm-hmm.
and so,
And that's what happened to me. I I hit a bottom with a really difficult client. The community was difficult all by itself. It was almost exactly like what's going on in Washington right now,
mm,
with a local little newspaper that reported on it and reported gossip every single week,
mm,
and throwing each other to the bus in board meetings every 2 weeks. It was horrible. And I had a president very similar to what's going on in the world right now that didn't care about the law, that didn't care about norms, that didn't care about necessarily what I thought was ethical, and was angry all the time, and like threatened employees, managed employees when they shouldn't. It was awful. And so I finally, after about a year and a quarter, said, "Look, this isn't working. I'm going to take a week off to kind of get my act together. When I come back, we need to have a conversation." And so I went to the doctor that afternoon, and it was I was his last patient, and he slowed down, just a general practitioner, right?
Mm-hmm.
"Have you gained weight recently?" "Yes." "Are you sweating a lot recently?" "Yes." "Have you lost enjoyment in your normal activities?" "Yes." "Are you grumpy and irritable?" "Yes." "Are you not sleeping well?" "Yes." "Are you suicidal?" "No." And he asked me the suicide question a number of times because, unfortunately, I have suicide in my family. And I finally said, "Doc, why are you asking me about suicide?" He goes, "Because you're off enough in the weeds that you're about that close to a 72-hour cycle."
mm,
And I brought my wife with me to the doctor's appointment because she was worried I was going to have a stroke or a heart attack. And she wanted to talk to the doctor too. And he said, "I think you have high performing depression and anxiety." I was like, "What the hell are you talking about? I don't lay in the bed with the cover over my head." He goes,
Mm-hmm.
"Yeah, well, we don't worry about those people so much because they procrastinate suicide. Guys like you just get right to the point and they go out and do it." So you're going to see a psychiatrist. You're going to get some help. And I said, well, I need to be back at work in a couple of weeks. He goes, no, you're taking the 4-month FMLA. And quite frankly, you're going to be dealing with this at least a year before you get a grip on it. And you need to change your lifestyle. And you're probably going to be dealing with this for 5 years of the rest of your life. You need a paradigm shift. You can't run through brick walls anymore. You just can't. And that moment, I was sharing with you before the meeting that I thought I was failing in that job, that I felt like a failure because I couldn't fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And that failure turned out to be one of the most important moments in my life. And it kind of gave me a different direction. So I started studying everything I could read on depression, anxiety, mental health, mental wellness. And I found out that stress, which does exist, here's a shocker in the HOA business,
Just a little bit.
stress is a killer for anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but especially if you have depression and anxiety. And you know, my anxiety drove me to accomplish things.
Mm-hmm.
It was an asset for a long time. Didn't make me necessarily feel comfortable inside, but it helped me get things done. Look at Bill. He did this, he did that.
It's almost like you're being chased by a bear.
Mm-hmm.
My line is, it's really tough, no matter, even if you run 100 miles an hour, it's really tough to outrun your 99-mile-an-hour fear. And the second you stop, that train, anybody that's ever had any sort of a breakdown in mental health, the minute you stop, that train just rolls right over you. And you literally feel like a helpless child. And you can't even make the simplest of decisions in that moment. I mean, I empathized with my employee because I had a panic attack during this. My poor wife, I wake up at like 5 in the morning. My wife wakes up at like 8:30 and can't do anything without a cup of coffee. She comes out and I've been having a panic attack for 2 or 3 hours and I didn't want to wake her up.
My gosh.
And she said, we're going to get you some help. You're never going back to that job again. And you have everything you need inside you right now to walk through this. But we're going to get you some help. And I give her a lot of credit. That's a very stubborn, patient woman. Both those qualities have really benefited me in our marriage. And, you know, I don't always like it, you know, when I'm getting yelled at or something, but they've really benefited me in my marriage and in my recovery, which is, as you know, Monica, a constant process. You know, there is no 100% cure for any of this stuff. There's kind of a sinusoidal graph. And even with meds and all the things I do, some days I'm in a downward cycle and some days I'm in an upward cycle. And, you know, I've just learned to ride it and to kind of manage what I do at work around it.
So for our listeners that maybe are in the shoes you were in and have no idea that they're struggling, what are some signs to look out for in yourself or others that, hey, maybe I do need to take a step back. Maybe I do need to go see somebody and get some help?
Well, you know, one of the things that I noticed for me is I could never put work down. You know, my phone was constantly beeping. My board expected responses to emails on Saturdays. If I wrote a really long response, they complained to me it was too long. If I wrote a really short, brief response, they complained to me it didn't have enough information in it. So I was working probably about 80 hours or more a week. So I would say if you're working more than 50 hours a week and you feel like you're spinning your tires and you're stuck in the mud, if you can't turn your brain off when you go home and be with your family, if you're not happy, if you're gaining weight, all the things that the doctor asked me, I mean, there are some very obvious signs, and probably your loved ones have tried to talk to you about this too. Like, hey, are you okay? Yeah, I'm fine. You know, there's a lot of signs like that. And, we knew I was taking a tough job. This was like the penultimate opportunity of my career, and it was a wonderful place. $15 million budget, golf, equestrian, tennis, you name it.
Wow.
Beautiful and historic place. But the awareness and, some have said courage to walk away from that job.
Yes.
When I was looking for a job again, my number one goal was to have a lower stress opportunity. And I found that, some on my own and some just by wonderful happenstance. But, I would just say, pay attention to your stress level.
Mm-hmm.
And stress is bad. Now, there's two types of burnout and this sort of mental health stuff. One is situational. You're going through a divorce, and once you get through the divorce and kind of get on with your life, everything's going to be fine. Or there's the chronic thing that can be triggered by these situational things, but that you didn't know you had your whole life. And I'm telling you, that diagnosis was the missing piece of a puzzle that helped me figure out a lot of my life. Like, I look back on high school, nobody liked me. I didn't fit in. I felt really down trying to prove myself. As a kid that moved there in high school, junior high, I didn't know everybody.
Yeah.
I just went to my 50-year reunion and I was beloved. So the problem was in here.
Definitely.
And I almost didn't go to my 50-year reunion, and I'm glad I did. But the fact of the matter is that once I really understood this and got some treatment for it, in general terms, I'm living a much easier, better life. I'm a little bit better at boundaries. I had a client here attack me and threaten me, verbally attack me, threaten to do more. And he was scary enough that you kind of could picture this guy coming in and shooting up the office, right?
Yeah.
Which unfortunately happens.
And yeah.
I immediately wrote to my board, wrote to HR. The next day was on the phone. He ended up suing me as a preemptive matter to us suing him for some non-compliance stuff. Guys, I was actually having a real life health thing with my heart at the time. I had chronic AFib and needed a procedure. So I was on the phone immediately to my management company boss and my board president. Guys, I am not able to handle this right now. He's wrong. Here's all the paperwork. I forwarded everything to the attorney already. Here's the attorney's name. And I need you guys to step in while I'm dealing with this medical issue and handling it. We got to a settlement phase, and they did. And we got to the settlement phase, and he demanded like $1 zillion, and we got him down to like $50,000. And I called everybody, and they said, hell no, we're not giving him $1. We got your back. Now, I would say to you, that's a rarity in the HOA management business. Usually they throw the manager under the bus, give the guy a little bit of money, make some sort of an apology, and then just move on.
Very true.
These guys, I have a place that appreciates me. I set boundaries. We're very clear on how everything works and what we need from each other. I've had their back a million times, and they had my back when I needed it.
That's awesome.
And I would say that this is the type of work environment that we all need to be, pulling together as a team to try and create for everybody. I think generally we're understaffed. I think generally we're underpaid. And I think generally we're underappreciated.
Agreed.
And those are things culture-wise we need to fix.
So how could somebody go about trying to start that change in their own business or their own team?
Well, you're talking about somebody that owns their own business or somebody that's on site working?
Somebody that's on site. So for someone like one of our listeners, let's say they identify that, hey, I'm struggling and I don't have the support I need from my team or my employer. How can I start a change without necessarily having to change jobs?
That's a great question. I'm a big communicator. I'm a big written communicator. I love the written word. I would say I'm an expert on writing violation letters in a way that doesn't make them like the normal form violation letter. I've got no problem writing a colleague or a boss. And I would say that the talent that you need to develop of advocating for yourself without making everybody angry is a really important talent that is required in this business. Speaking up for yourself, pushing. I've always had to push salary envelopes, staffing envelopes. I mean, yeah, guys, you want Mercedes-Benz service, but you're giving me a Chevrolet budget.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, something's got to give here. I think also what I have found, lifestyle's unusual in the sense that it's a lot like the manager, and you need to be able to connect with the community.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be able to connect with human beings. Accountants can sit and do their numbers by themselves all day long. That ability to connect with people and make them feel a part of something bigger than just houses is a very rare talent. And I think it needs to be nurtured and appreciated. I think it's very misunderstood. The lifestyle stuff is still very new in our industry.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of managers like me, we start out as asset guys. Bottom line, nuts and bolts, get the painting spec written. We start out like that. A lot of CEOs are spending so much time focusing on the bottom line and AI and offshoring and whatever the heck it might be,
Mm-hmm.
that we forget that we need to connect with our own teams. And that's a two-way street.
Mm-hmm.
I would just say that I consider myself an educator. I have to teach homeowners how HOAs work. I have to teach board members how HOAs work. I have to teach employees how HOAs work. I have to teach my security staff how to be a service organization, not a rules deal.
Mm-hmm.
We don't hire any ex-police people. None. I would hire somebody from Starbucks to be a security person for me before I would hire an ex-police person. Not that ex-cops are bad, but they don't have a service orientation.
Mm-hmm.
So this educational, by the way, I teach classes to managers, and I just think education and the written word are so much of what we do. I would say that if I was a lifestyle person, that I wanted more money, I wanted more appreciation and understanding, I've got to take the role of an educator, of a teacher. And I have to teach my manager why I'm valuable.
Mm-hmm.
I have to teach the board why I'm valuable. Am I helping reduce turnover in the community, which keeps prices high? Have I helped turn around that angry mom that wrote 1 million mean letters and now she loves the association? Are we attracting owners to look at our community with our programs?
Mm-hmm.
These are things that if the lifestyle person is not documenting, and this is another thing I did, I used to send out weekly reports and I documented everything we accomplished every week in those reports. So when it got down to evaluation time and I had to do a self-evaluation, I turned all that stuff into my boss.
I love that.
And I just think that you need to fight for yourself in a good way.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to accept that you're an educator, that this is something that people do not understand.
Mm-hmm.
And we joked about this before the meeting. I would say if anybody on this call probably gets called a party planner one more time, their heads are going to explode. Y'all are a whole lot more than that. And it took me a while to understand it.
Definitely. I think, the idea of a lifestyle director, there's two parts here. One, for all the lifestyle directors listening, to hear a community manager, their own struggles. I think it's important because so often I think lifestyle can get in their own bubble and managers can get in their own bubble and
Absolutely.
not realizing you guys are facing the same concerns and issues. And
Same people.
so lifestyle directors, I would say speak to your manager because they don't know unless you tell them that
Drive the
you're having
community
an issue.
together. The next time he goes out on a site inspection, say, hey, can I tag along?
Oh, that's so good.
I'm blessed here. I manage Toscana, which is a beautiful upscale community in Palm Desert, California, Indian Wells, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I work for an associate branch. I have a great boss that understands all this wellness stuff. But when I get bogged down, or when a Stephanie, my assistant manager, and I get bogged down, we go drive the community. And it's beautiful. I mean, it's like
Oh, that's so
ridiculously
nice.
beautiful. And so all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're doing a bad job. We're doing a horrible job here. Look at this place. And it really makes you feel better. I would
Mhm.
suggest too that from a lifestyle person standpoint, my job is to turn around difficult clients, but the lifestyle person actually interacts with the community a lot of times more than the manager does.
Mhm.
And so I would keep track of the challenging owners that you've turned around,
Mhm.
or that you've developed good relationships with, or because they've come to a bunch of events, they're now on your planning committee, or they want to be on a different committee. I would keep track of numbers that are attending events. I mean, I would do everything I could to just keep track so that you can show them that these are dollars well spent. I mean, I'm
Mhm.
sure lifestyle is the first thing they cut when the market goes downward, and it's probably the last thing you should cut.
Mhm.
Agreed.
Agree 100%. Every time it's, well, what budget do we cut? It's lifestyle. But they still expect the same level of activities and engagements.
They still want that Mercedes lifestyle for the Chevy budget, as
Mhm.
Bill alluded
Well, and
to.
everybody's facing this. I mean, the
Mhm.
club here is going to have a big dues increase 2 years in a row.
Mhm.
We had a big dues increase last year because we added some services and a couple of other unique reasons,
Mhm.
peculiar to just our community at the time. So everybody's freaking out, and these are millionaires that got plenty of money to do what they're doing, but everybody's freaking out. They look at the percentage increase. And, the reality is, guys, this is a special community. You're not living, 5 miles down next to the railroad tracks with cars on blocks
Mhm.
and neighbors yelling at each other. We're making a concerted effort to enforce the rules, to have positive events so that this community has opportunity after opportunity to come together. And that's really what we're talking about here. Lifestyle is a concept that was created. I'm pretty sure it's Celebration. It was the first one to start it. And what's that, like end of the 90s? So this is still only a 25-year-old concept. But the idea was to have so much fun stuff and good stuff going on that people wouldn't have time to complain about the rest of the HOA. And, it's become more than that.
Mhm.
And it's different for every site. It's different depending on your amenities and for every site, but still, that's the core of it. That's the core of my job too, bringing people, bringing communities together.
Bill, you said something about, making them so they don't think about the problems of the community. And I will say that it's hard to put lipstick on a pig. And if the compliance isn't being done correctly, if the manager isn't reaching out and connecting with their residents, and the residents are just ticked off with just the management, a lifestyle director is not going to come in and have events and make everyone go, "Oh, this place is amazing." They won't show up. And so it's very important that lifestyle directors and managers are lockstep.
Absolutely. And you're both responsible. We're both responsible for the heart and soul of the community, the
Mhm.
manager in a different way.
Correct.
I love that analogy, and it sounds a lot funnier coming out of your mouth than it does mine. The second part of that analogy is don't wrestle with a pig. You get dirty and the pig likes it.
Yep.
So once you've gotten to the pig analogy stage, you're probably too far gone to be safe. But, you know, we're just trying. I mean, doesn't America need more community right now? Doesn't America need more positive engagement right
Mm-hmm.
now? We're all just trying to do the same thing. I mean, people drive. I've got employees that drive 90 minutes to go to work here. and back in the day, well, it's Southern California.
True.
Back in the day when you commuted, I mean, I don't commute at all. I live 3 miles from my office, but, you would drive an hour each way to work in a lot of metropolitan
That's
areas.
true.
Have a crappy week, be all stressed out, all that traffic, you get home. We're trying to create places and environments where when you get home, you sigh and you relax
Mm-hmm.
and you can enjoy your weekend. You can enjoy your kids. Your kids can ride their bikes in the street and be safe in today's society. That's what we're working to create. So it gets back to education. What are we doing for you, owners? I had to write a nasty-ish email to my owners the other day because people aren't walking their dogs on leashes and they're not picking up their dog poop and they're not stopping at stop signs.
These
And
people.
I'm sitting here lecturing 65-year-old millionaires and billionaires to just be good neighbors.
Yeah.
And that's what I said. I said, guys, just be neighborly. And yet that's the environment. I mean, even here, we still have these issues. You'd think these people would be happy all the time, but they've spent a lifetime being stressed out and worried.
Mm-hmm.
And, even here, that can still happen. And it is a constant process. I mean, I had a woman that was really angry with me in a meeting here a couple months ago, and she and her husband and I had a horrible discussion about something that they were doing with their landscaping, and they didn't follow the rules, and they started a project before it had been submitted and approved. And we have a very strict policy on colored rock, and their rock looked very red. And I sent them a note and I said, let's please meet, because usually I meet with people and everything's fine. And I mean, we went from 0 to 100 miles an hour of anger in 1 second, the minute I stepped on the property. And so I asked her in this, we're arguing about it, we're debating an accounting thing that she didn't understand in her bill. And I said, ma'am, why are you so mad? I mean, I'm sorry. I really need to understand what all this anger is about, please.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, you called my husband a liar and you were rude to us and you were this and you were that. And that was the only interaction I'd ever had with them. And they have a reputation too around here. So anyway, I said, Mrs. So-and-so, I am so sorry. That was not my intent. Obviously, I didn't communicate as good as I could have. That was not my intent. I'm sorry. Can we call your husband right now? I'll apologize to him right now. I cannot go one more minute without healing this relationship. She cried.
Oh.
The next time I saw her husband, everything was fine. They're working with me on a project to get a young couple of kids in here as one of our certified landscaper lists for people to use in their yard. She brings us brownies and cake. She just wanted to be understood. They wanted me to say their landscaping was beautiful. They took what I wrote as an insult, and I didn't understand it in the moment. And 2 or 3 years later was not too late to fix that relationship. And I think that, again, if you want to understand the core of what we do, we being managers and lifestyle people, we are building relationships with our customers. They're not just residents, they're customers. They're customers for our service. Both of us are like concierge level employees. I had the Four Seasons as a customer in Hawaii. Imagine having 6 hotels as customers for an HOA. And they had a policy that anybody on their team could solve a guest problem. And they tell stories. This one story, they used treated effluent water in some of their irrigation, and they had signs like that. And a woman is walking down the sidewalk in a beautiful tennis outfit, and a non-effluent irrigation system sprayed her with water.
No.
And she freaked out that she's covered in sewage.
Oh, no.
And if you know anything about treated effluent, it's fine. But it was regular irrigation water. A landscaper, a guy with a rake in his hands, took her to their spa, told the spa director what happened. They gave her a complete spa day. And when she got out of the massage and facials and mani-pedi and whatever the heck else she had done, they had 3 new outfits for her to choose from their shop. Because a landscaper spotted this and took care of her immediately. Service recovery, again, is both of our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And if I'm a lifestyle person, I'm educating my manager. I'm educating my board. I'd have my lifestyle person give reports at board meetings, for God's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Have this be very, very visible. Those are the things I would focus on if you want to be better appreciated, if you want to make more money, if you want to grow in the industry.
I love that. One thing I love that you keep going back to, because it just comes up constantly, is that we are educators. I think that 2 of the most important things we can do in any role is educating people and then letting people be seen. Most of the time, people come in so hot and angry, and all you have to do is just hear them, see them, and then they can leave and have a better
Just
day.
like the lady the other day, man. You know, if I was a lifestyle person and someone said, "You're a party planner," I would say, "I'm in adult education. I'm in relationship. I'm in relationship building.
Yeah.
I'm in problem
Mm-hmm.
solving."
I've said that so many times, like our elevator pitch is impossible, because how do you capture what you do as a lifestyle director?
Well, I think that, some of our employees are a force. Some of our employees are force multipliers. I would say a lifestyle director doing their job well is a force multiplier. A manager doing their job well is a force multiplier. I happen to work for one of the best developers as part of the setup here, Sunrise, in the entire United States. They've done developments all over the place. The guy that is the president of Sunrise, I'm not going to tell you his age, but he's been doing what he's been doing longer than I've been doing what I've been doing. Wow. He's a lawyer that doesn't practice law, so he understands all of that, and he has seen and heard everything. This gentleman treats me like a peer.
I love it.
Like
That's
an
awesome.
absolute peer, like I'm at his level. And, very rarely I'll get a text from him where he edits something that I did that he thought I should have written a little bit differently. Or maybe, once in a blue moon, he'll say I might have come on a little too strong in an email. But man, I mean, he lets me do my job. I had a treasurer walk in here the other day wanting to go in a different direction with the budget. And he was expecting a big pushback from me. And I said, fantastic. He goes, this is a pretty big philosophical change. You're not concerned? I said, hey, man, you're providing leadership. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. And it's my job to facilitate you. Now, if you were breaking the law, or if we were misrepresenting something financially to our customers, I would stop you on it very forcefully. But no, this is just a paradigm shift, and I think it's brilliant. Let's pursue it. Again, I get back to something different every day. And that hasn't stopped. That hasn't changed.
It's awesome.
So, one of the things I wanted to kind of touch on and then jump from is how you were saying how you've been in the business 40 years plus, and there are still times your board president will correct something that you write. I say that because as lifestyle directors, so many write community newsletters, and when their developer client or their board sees something and they call it out on them, they feel like it's a personal attack. And to all of our lifestyle people, we're human.
Yep.
It's okay. And you need to forgive yourself. I say that because we're talking about mental health, and it's really important.
Me too. Me too. In the
understand that.
beginning, in the mid 90s, I had an uncle that was actually a PR guy, and I would send him my newsletter that I wrote, like the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, and he would send it back with so much red on it. It looked like, and he wanted it to be the USA Today.
Yep.
And I learned a lot from him. But I would say this is a great point. First of all, his vision for what the developer's done here is bigger than my vision as the manager, number one. Number two, this guy's an excellent writer and editor. And number three, if I'm able to let go of it and let it be a team sport, you're basically respecting these other people like you want them to respect you. It's nothing personal. Maybe they have a different writing style. Maybe they wanted to add a couple of points. I had a lifestyle communications person that was outstanding. We did a 40-page magazine at Desert Mountain. You saw copies of it.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote she had a piece in every issue, and she wrote a first-person thing comparing herself to superheroes in comic books. And I got what she was saying as if she was talking to me, but it was just read the room. It was completely wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to my president at the time, who also really liked and respected this person's work. And I said to my president, this seems like it's missing the boat to me. And I had to go back to her and say, this isn't going to get in the whole thing. You need to rewrite something from a different angle. And she was crushed.
Oh, no.
Crushed, crying in the office.
No.
And, this is the graduate school level of being a true full-grown adult team level manager at the highest level in our industry. Nothing I submit to CAI for these publications doesn't get edited. Nothing.
Exactly. And we're running short on time. And so what's time, right, Bill? What's time? But
I'm shocked that we've gone long.
I know. Who would have thunk that? But there's the other point I want to make is for our lifestyle directors. And Lauren and I have talked about this before, is you have to be able to manage your time. We've talked about time management, because if you don't manage your time, it will manage you. And you will not have an opportunity to take the time to decompress, take the time to, reflect on your day, reflect on what someone said that maybe you can learn from. Maybe
How about
you
be with
can't.
your family?
Yep.
Exactly. Just be able to be outside of work. We were talking, I was in a meeting earlier today, and the speaker said, there's no such thing as work-life balance. It's like work-life integration. It's like a symphony, right? You can't have all drums all the time, because that would be a little much. And you can't have all the trumpets all the time. And so it's really working it all to make a beautiful sound. And so for our lifestyle people, making sure that you are taking time to decompress and focus on your own mental health. Because if you are the type A crazy ones like Bill and I, you will hit the end of the road and you won't be able to go anymore. If you are the ones that pull up the covers, you too need to find someone to talk to. You do need to reach out. And so my basic point is whether you're a community manager or a lifestyle director, mental health is real. And it's real outside of our industry. And it's time for everyone to feel empowered enough to take care of themselves.
A third of the country, statistically proven, are dealing with mental health issues at one level or another. About 20% of the country have some sort of mental health issue, like anxiety, depression, whatever it might be. $9 trillion are lost in worldwide gross domestic product annually in employee underperformance or unhappiness at work. COVID was $4.5 trillion of lost GDP. From a productivity standpoint, this is twice as big as COVID. I mean, and I say these statistics, it's not Bill making stuff up. Gallup, Deloitte, they're out there studying these things because they know it's affecting the bottom line of businesses. So if you're a CEO watching this, better culture, happier employees improves productivity, and it costs nothing to change your culture. It costs nothing to not be a, you know what, at work. It costs nothing. And if you're that way at work, angry, and that trickles down, if you show you're taking care of your mental health, your mental wellness, you're managing your day. Hey, I don't get emails on my phone. I tell that in a manager's call like this, and they all are shocked. There is, people know my phone number, and they will call me if there's a true emergency. The only emergency in the HOA business is a water leak. I mean, other than that, we're not doing brain surgery here. We're not trying to land the plane that's on fire. Let's remember what's going on here. We're managing a community. And if we lower the temperature, the reality is we need this to be kind of a friendly, pleasant place. Still work, but it doesn't have to be a war zone.
Yep. And I will say too, first of all, for everybody, it's okay to not be okay. Don't be ashamed to ask for help. It doesn't even have to be a bad culture. So if you look around and say, hey, I've got this phenomenal company, but I'm still struggling, that's okay. I mean, and I'll be completely honest with all of you today. I signed back up for therapy just this morning, just because I am spinning so many plates right now that you just got to take a moment to say, hey, okay, like, let's figure this out.
Counseling,
and it's okay.
I have learned so much from my counselor about what triggers me that's been able to heal, or at least be a little more compartmentalized and softened, that I don't get triggered anymore, or at least as much. These things, wow, I'm so glad you said that. These things are so important. And we neglect self-care to the point of crashing. And, it's a whole lot easier to deal with a problem when it's small than when you're completely burned out and in that 72-hour cycle.
I tell lifestyle directors I train, either you sit down or God will sit you down. You choose. Because I've had God sit me down numerous occasions because
I just got sat down for
crazy.
trying to do too much of a workout on vacation. I am still 18 in my head that thinks I can go from 0 to 100 miles an hour.
Exactly.
And my higher power sat me down too and said, listen up, old man, pay attention. I'm with you 100%, Monica.
So, while there is some self accountability because your managers may not know, I do ask managers to check in with their teams, ask them how they're doing, to open that door. And I do want, if there are CEOs on here, to not only encourage your managers to do it, but also encourage time off. And you can't encourage it without doing it yourself. People that report to you will not take time off if you don't. It's a really hard thing to do. And so that is part of our mental well-being, is being able to take that time off. And
But that's a culture shift, Monica, and that's what we're talking about here. That's a culture shift.
It is.
I've worked for companies that send out an email, let's congratulate Joe for not taking any of his vacation last year and working 87 million hours of overtime. And that's the culture. I think there is such a thing as work-life balance. I think this business attracts the type AAA high performers that are also prone to eventually running out of gas.
Mm-hmm.
I look back, I told you this diagnosis, I look back on some huge down moments in my life where following a huge energetic up and, tons of hard work or whatever, there's a sinusoidal correspondence to that. And when I'm down, I'm really down. And I didn't realize that that was something more than just being sad about life events. And, this is, I want to emphasize this. We're being really gentle about it, but this is life or death for some people. People
Mm-hmm.
commit suicide. It is not uncommon in the news to hear about some famous person, some athlete. Miss
Mm-hmm.
America jumped out of a fourth floor window in Manhattan a few years ago. These super happy looking, high performing people that we see out in the world every day are struggling with this stuff. I mean, Anthony Bourdain, for God's sake.
Yeah.
And they're struggling inside and they don't even really know they're struggling. We think it's normal. We just need to persevere. It'll go away. I can't tell anybody this. I would suggest find one person, whether it's a counselor or a friend, find one person that you can really
Mm-hmm.
bare your soul to when you're having a tough time. Because sometimes just talking about it and getting it out of your system lowers the pressure a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I get into situations with people all the time where I do the best I can, but there's only so much I can do with them. And I say,
Mhm.
listen, I'm not a doctor. You're scaring me a little bit. I think you need to take a deep breath, and I think you need to get some professional help right now, whether it's a counselor or a doctor. I can't be that. So you
Mhm.
also need to know your limit of
Very
helping
true.
other people when they reach out to you. But staying silent, struggling in pain, and just taking a pill even is not really enough to address the big picture here. We should do a second session on this. I mean, I've studied the physiology of the nervous system and the brain and
Mhm.
the triggers that happen to us from an adrenaline standpoint, just from a thought,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
where there's not really a lion coming to kill you, but you have the reaction as if there's a lion coming to kill you.
Mhm.
These are things that with counseling and time, you can actually kind of change how your nervous system and your thought process, your whole physiology interacts.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
This business has the ability to really trigger people.
Mhm.
It does.
And so in a way, I'm blessed that I gravitated to a business that triggered me long enough that I finally got help and figured something out that was a mystery to me.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
But you can't do it by yourself because
No.
what you're trying to fix it with and think it through is part of what's messed up.
Mhm.
So, Lauren, I'm going to, shoot it over to you to close. But before we do that, Bill, thank you so much for your time and your
Mhm.
wisdom. There's a lot of important, items or topics that you brought up that may have not been kind of our direction, so to speak, but was so important because it
Mhm.
all ties in together. And I
Mhm.
think that's what's important. I mean, we could sit here and just pound you with mental health questions, but in reality, everything you shared is what we all live on a daily basis in the
Mhm.
HOA world. And so it's important for, you know, whether you're a lifestyle director, compliance manager, community manager, to realize number one, we're all in this together. And
Amen.
and we have to understand that and not feel like one's better than the other, or we all have our mission is to make our client, our customer happy. That is our goal. That's why we're there. And if we all work together, we can make that happen.
But it's like a marriage in a way, in that is not an easy relationship. The manager is sensitive and has an ego and can be triggered too. And so I would just say to everybody, there's got to be a gentle hand here. Hey, Joe, I know you're struggling right now with X, Y, and Z, but I need to talk to you about something. And by the way, we're a team. Can I help you in some way? I need your help too. You're my partner. Now, I realize you're running the bigger part of the ship here, but I'm out touching the community every single day. How you approach that, how one approaches that is really, really important. If you're the typical manager, you are stressed to the nines, just trying to get to the next board meeting. If you're a typical CEO, you're just worried about the bottom line. So it gets back to being an educator and a relationship builder. You got to manage your boss.
And to go back to the taking time for yourself, I think it's important to I have two different I have a work phone and a personal phone so that I can turn it off when I'm taking that time. So if you are a boss or a CEO or something like that, and you are taking that time, completely turn it off. Because if you're still responding to emails while you're out, your employees are going to think they have to do the same.
Copying everybody under the sun so their phones are blowing up too.
So I think taking a step back from that helps encourage that time away from it.
Definitely.
Yes, ma'am.
Bill, thank you so much for joining us. Great topic. I think definitely we should talk again. And for those listening, if you need help, reach out. And I do always want to direct people 988 if you are having a crisis or an emergency. Please seek help. There are professionals there to help you out in those moments. So thank you, and take care of yourself until next time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you.